Hello friends. So today we are going to discuss about the important parameter or the important phenomena which occurs due to the thin film, and that is what is called as the film of wedge shape, or we can say wedge shape film. So whenever interference is occurring due to a wedge shape film, we talk about the interference due to wedge shaped film. So, starting with the concept of wedge shape film, we have already covered the concept related to the interference occurring due to the thin film. So, as we have observed that we obtain a very colorful, constructive and destructive interference bands and interference due to thin film. So, proceeding with the same concept, we are talking about a phenomena of interference being occurred due to the non-uniform thickness of a film called as wedge shaped. So whenever a film has a non-uniform thickness, we call it as a wedge shaped film. So suppose if we consider a film which is of non-uniform thickness, as we are aware, when I'm saying non-uniform thickness, the thickness of the film is going to vary at each and every position. So if we have considered a film of a non-uniform thickness, and in that film we have considered the two surfaces which are separated by a certain distance, or you can say certain angle. So in this case we have considered a film of non-uniform thickness. This film of non-uniform thickness is considered to be the wedge shaped film, and as you can see in the diagram, we have a surface OX and we have another surface that is OX dash. So these two surfaces are inclined to each other, and that angle is given as theta. And as you can see that the angle of the film is increasing from the point of O, that is at the point which these two surfaces are meeting, and as we go from O to X, or we travel from O to X position, the thickness of the film is varying. That means the thickness of the film is increasing. So as we can see that if you want to make a film of non-uniform thickness, we are making use of two surfaces which are of considering of two surfaces, that is OX and OX dash, and these two surfaces are separated by an angle of theta. And as you can see that the thickness of the film is almost very small at this point, and as we go from O to X position, the thickness is increasing. So we can say that we have considered a film of non-uniform thickness. Now, simply when we say that we have considered a film of non-uniform thickness, it is going to be called as wedge-shaped film. So that is what is our topic related to. That is the wedge-shaped film interference. That means the interference occurring due to the non-uniform thickness of the film, or we can say that interference occurring due to the wedge-shaped film. So we are going to discuss about how the interference is going to occur in the wedge shape film first of all. Then we are going to talk about the different conditions for constructive interference and destructive interference. So starting with the concept, as we can see in the diagram that we have AB incident ray, and this incident ray is meeting at the upper surface, that is OX dash, and at this point B, the ray undergoes partial reflection, that is along BR1, and partial refraction along BC. That means the incident ray B, which is considered to be of a monochromatic light of wavelength lambda, is allowed to be incident on the upper surface of the film, that is OX dash, at point B. At point B, the ray undergoes two phenomena, that is partial reflection along BR1 and partial refraction along BC. Now, when we look at the further part, as the ray reaches the point C, again at C, we can see that the ray is undergoing again partial reflection and partial refraction. If you look at the diagram, at point C, the refraction is again going from, that is C to P, and we are getting one more ray, that is reflected ray along CR2, or we can specifically name it as dr2. So we have two rays which are getting emerged in the reflected system, that is br1, and the second one is dr2. These are the two rays of light which are occurring in the reflected system, and the remaining rays are either lying inside the film or they're lying on the other side. So when we look at the overall diagram, we have AB, that is the incident ray of monochromatic wavelength lambda. That ray AB is undergoing partial reflection at point B along BR1 and partial refraction along BC. At point C, we have a ray going along, that is CP, and the partial reflected ray goes along CD and it gets emerged out in the reflected system as DR2. So we have two rays which are important for us, that is BR1 and DR2. So BR1, that is for the rays which are getting reflected from the upper surface of the film, and DR2 for the rays which are getting reflected from the lower surface of the wedge shaped film. So ultimately we consider two rays, that is br1 and dr2. Secondly, if you look at the diagram of wedge shaped film, we can obtain various diagrams, like this is also indicating a wedge shaped film, and in this case this is the two surfaces we have considered. This is one glass surface and the second glass surface. They are forming a film of non-uniform thickness, and in between them there is a wedge that is nothing but wedge made up of air. So this is what we have formed, a thin film which is nothing but of non-uniform thickness of, that is called as the wedge shaped film. So in this manner we can draw the wedge shaped film for any of the mediums. Now when you proceed with the further part, we look at calculating the path difference between the two rays. Like when we talk about the ray br1 and the ray dr2, we need to calculate what is the path difference between the two rays. Why? Because br1 and dr2 are the two reflected rays which are seen in the reflected system, and when we allow them to interfere with each other, they are either going to interfere with each other in a constructive manner or in a destructive manner. And due to constructive interference and destructive interference, we are going to get a bands that is alternate bright and dark bands, that is what is called as interference pattern. Now as we can see in the diagram, that the two rays which are important for us is br1 and the dr2. As we can see that they two rays are not parallel. The br1 is like this and the dr2 is like this, so they are not parallel. So we can say that they are divergent ray, but they are allowed to interfere with each other at a certain position which is very long away. Now as we can see that the ray br1 is getting reflected from the point B, that is from the upper surface of the wedge shaped film, but the ray dr2 is getting reflected from the point C. And if we observe, this ray dr2 is supposed to come from C, but the ray which is coming at C it is coming from actually AB. So if I tell you to compare the two rays, that is br1 and dr2, the question arises, which ray is obtained by traveling a longer distance? Like if we look at AB, after AB we get a ray br1, but to get dr2, that is the second ray, this ray has to travel from B to C, then C to D. So if you look at the whole diagram, in this case the ray which we obtain, that is dr2, is obtained due to the longer distance, that is it is obtained due to the longer distance traveled by it, and br1 is having a shorter distance. So if we look at the two rays, that is br1 and dr2, they have not traveled equal path. So if they have not traveled equal path, we need to calculate the path difference. And as the first ray, that is br1, is in the same medium, that is air medium, but if you look at the second ray, that is dr2, It is supposed to come from the medium which is present inside the film, and I consider the refractive index of the medium inside the film to be mu. So if you look at the optical path difference, because whenever we talk about the path difference, we have two types of path difference which we have already calculated previously, that is geometrical path difference and optical path difference. But whenever a medium comes into picture, except air or vacuum, we need to calculate optical path difference. So as we can see that we have a medium of refractive index mu, and the ray dr2 is supposed to come from the medium having refractive index mu. That is why we are considering, or we are calculating, the optical path difference between the ray br1 and dr2. Why we are calculating it? Because the distance traveled by br1 is very less, and the distance traveled by the ray dr2 is very long, so we need to calculate the path difference. Now when we look at the path difference, we draw a perpendicular from D to F. So to calculate the path difference, we are drawing perpendicular DF to the ray BR1, and this perpendicular is starting from point D. So to calculate the path difference, we need to drop a perpendicular from D to F at ray BR1. Now when we calculate the path difference, it is written as refractive index times the path of the second ray. If you look at the path of second ray, it is from B to C, C to D. So the whole path till D is BC plus CD. This is the path traveled by the light, which is giving me the ray dr2, minus the ray which is giving me, or the path which is giving me br1 ray, is nothing but bf, as bf is smaller than bc plus cd. So we have written the path difference as, this is indicating the optical path difference is equal to mu times the longer path bc plus cd in the medium having refractive index mu, minus bf, that is the shorter path traveled by the ray br1 in the air medium. So this is, we are writing the initial condition for the path difference between the two rays which are obtained in the reflected system, that is br1 and dr2. Now if we want to continue with the further part of calculation of analyticals, we are dropping a perpendicular again on the surface OX at point C. So as we can see that this is the perpendicular at point C drawn to the surface OX. Now whenever we drop this perpendicular, there is one more perpendicular drawn at point B to the surface OX dash. So we have two rays, one like this to the surface OX at point C, and the other one is at point B. So we have drawn two normals, one at point C to the surface OX, one at point B to the surface OX dash. Now obviously if we allow them to meet with each other, they are going to meet at a point, suppose Q. So the normal drawn at point B to the surface OX dash and the normal drawn at point C to the surface OX is supposed to meet at point Q, and they are forming a certain angle with each other. Now if you look at that angle is nothing but written as theta, as we had already this angle to be theta. So this is what you write, that angle in the diagram, angle BQ C is taken to be theta, and we are already aware that the angle between the two surfaces, or the two inclined surface which is forming a west shape, is again theta, that is this angle. So we have written over here that angle BQC, which we have drawn in this case, is theta, as well as the angle between x dash OX is again theta by using the geometry. Now when we proceed with the further part, we can even draw perpendiculars to this ray. Like suppose if I drop a perpendicular from D to the line BC, so we are dropping a perpendicular DE on BC, and if I drop a perpendicular, BC will get divided into two parts, that is BE and EC. So if I drop a perpendicular from point D, it is giving me two equal parts, that is B is equal to EC. Now, if you look at the angle of refractions in this particular diagram, we have certain angles of refraction given over here. Like if we look at angle BDE, it is angle R. And if we again look at the angle QBC, it is again R. So we have different angles written over here. Like for example, if I write angle QBE, it is given as angle of refraction, that is R. And again, as we can see in this part, this angle is again R, which is written as angle BDE. So these are the two angles which are taken as the angle of refraction from the diagram. Now we can even draw more perpendiculars just for our suitability. That is, we are dropping a perpendicular from D on this line OX at point I. Now if you drop a perpendicular from point D on the surface OX, that is at I, we are going to get, and we are even producing a more further line along BC, and this further line BC meets that perpendicular at point P. So the last part of this geometry is that we have dropped a perpendicular from D at point I on the surface OX, and we have produced BC in the backward direction, which is meeting the normal drawn at point P. And if we look at the diagram, we can say that CP is equal to CD. That means the distance of CP is equal to CD, because we have drawn a triangle in this case, giving me two equal sides. So this is what is related to the geometry of the diagram. Secondly, as we are aware that we had written the equation of the path difference, that is the longer path traveled by the ray dr2 minus the shorter path traveled by the ray br1, because as I said, the only two rays which matters to us is br1 and dr2, which is in the reflected system. So to obtain this, we are getting path difference as mu times bc plus cd minus bf. Now if we look at this diagram, we can divide this bc into two parts. Like as we are aware, bc can be written as be plus ec, because E is dividing the BC line into two equal parts. So BC can be written as BE plus EC. So instead of BC, we are writing BE plus EC, and remaining equation is as it is. Now, as we are aware that according to Snell's law, we can write that the refractive index is always equal to sine I divided by sine R. So if we write this equation, we need to obviously calculate what is sine I and what is sine R. So as we can see in this, the triangle which I have shown with a tick mark, that is in triangle. Suppose if I consider in triangle BFD, the angle D is I. So if I want to write sine I of it, sine I will be opposite upon hypotenuse, that is BF upon hypotenuse is nothing but BD. And if I want to calculate sine R, that is what I'm calculating in triangle BED, as from D we have dropped a perpendicular at point E. So in triangle BED, angle D again is R in that smaller triangle. So the sine R value will be taken as opposite upon again hypotenuse. As for this R, this opposite is nothing but BE, but if we look at hypotenuse, it is nothing but BD. So from two different triangles, we have calculated the value of sine I and sine R. From using these two values in this Snell's equation, we can get the value as sine I, that is this divided by this. We are going to get the value as BF upon BE, which is what we have written in the above equation. And as we get mu is equal to BF upon BE, we can write the value of BF as mu times of BE. So we have found out the value of BF, which is mu times of BE. Now, obviously proceeding with the further part, we can write this above equation again. As we are aware, the path difference will be delta will be written as mu times BE plus EC plus CP minus, instead of BF we can write mu times of BE. So if we write this as mu times of BE, we have written that equation. Secondly, if we look at this BE plus EC plus CP, this is a line along B to P. So we can further continue with the equation as this is mu times of BE minus mu times of BE. So they are going to get cancelled with each other, and we are going to get only the remaining term will be mu times of EC plus CP. Now if we look at this term, that is from EC plus CP, gives me the whole distance, that is E to P. So we are getting an equation for path difference as path difference, that is optical path difference, delta is equal to mu times of EP. This is using the diagram or the geometrical concept of the wedge shape film. If we proceed with the further part, if we look at the diagram, in this triangle CDP, as we can see that this whole bigger triangle, that is triangle CDP, we can see that this side CP is almost equal to CD. Almost we can say that it is actually equal to each other. So CP is equal to CD. And if we look at this angle, that is P is R plus theta. So in this triangle, that is bigger triangle CDP, we have two sides to be equal, that is CD is equal to CP, and we have named that angle to be, that is angle P has R plus theta. So we can consider in triangle CDP, we have two sides to be equal, that is CD is equal to CP, and the angle P is written as R plus theta. Now from this particular triangle, if I start calculating the value of cos R plus theta, as we are aware that cos is always taken to be the adjacent term to the hypotenuse. So if you look at this whole triangle, that is, now we are considering a new triangle, that is, suppose if I consider in triangle, that is DEP, because why we are considering that triangle, because the angle E is 90 degree. So we are considering triangle DEP. In this triangle DEP, angle E is 90 degree, angle P is R plus theta. So for cos R plus theta, it will be adjacent upon hypotenuse. As we can see that adjacent side for R plus theta is EP, and hypotenuse will be dp. So cos r plus theta is equal to ep upon dp. So from this value we can write that ep is equal to dp times of cos r plus theta. Now if you look at this whole length d to p, from d to I, this is nothing but the thickness of the film, that is t. So from D to P, we have a midway point, that is I, that is DI is nothing but indicating T, that is T is the thickness of the wedge shape film. So if I look at the IP value, IP is nothing but of equal length, that is of DI. So we can write that this DP will be 2 times of DI, as we are aware that the DI value is nothing but T, that is thickness of the wedge shape film. So we are going to get EP is equal to 2T cos R plus theta. Why we have written 2T? Because dP is 2 times of DI, that is from the diagram. So this is the way we calculate the value of EP. Now obviously if you look at T, T is nothing but indicating the thickness of the film. And once we get the value of EP, as we can see in this equation, that is equation 1 and equation 2, we can put up the value of EP in the equation 1, and ultimately we can get the path difference as, that is, you can say that there is a path difference delta is equal to mu times, if you look at EP value, it is 2t cos r plus theta. So using the diagram of wedge shape film, that is about the rays which are getting incident, they are getting partially reflected, and the two rays which are considered, that is BR1 and DR2, important for us, is giving me a path difference of 2 mu t cos r theta. But if we proceed with the further part, as we can see that whenever we talk about the ray AB is the incident ray having the monochromatic light, or we can say the incident ray coming from the monochromatic light of wavelength lambda. And at this point B, the first reflection is occurring along the BR1 path, and the second reflection is occurring after the reflection from the second surface, that is lower surface. So as we have already talked about the reflection occurring at the upper surface and the lower surface, so if the reflection occurs at point B, we observe no phase change, and in this case, if the reflection occurs at the lower surface, that is this point F, we are going to get a phase change of pi. Now, for our case, as we can see that for the ray BR1, that is this ray, we have considered the reflection is occurring at point B, and at point B, we have an additional path change of lambda by 2. So, there is an additional path difference of lambda by 2 at point B for BR1, and we have already calculated the path difference analytically. So we can write the total path difference at point B will be written as the previous value, that is 2 mu t cos r plus theta, which is calculated using the whole concept of ray being reflected, plus as we are talking about the ray BR1, its reflection is occurring at B, so the additional path difference of lambda by 2 occurs. So the effective path difference which we get is nothing but delta is equal to 2 mu t cos r plus theta plus lambda by 2. So this will be called as the effective path difference for the ray, that is BR1 and DR2. So we are getting the total value of path difference which is occurring at for the two rays, that is BR1 and DR2. Now once we get the value of path difference, we can equate it to the integral multiple or the odd multiple, and by equating it to even multiple or odd multiple, we get the conditions for constructive interference and destructive interference. So as we have already discussed that if we want to obtain maxima, so constructive interference should occur, and mathematically the path difference for constructive interference should be equal to integral multiple of wavelength lambda. So as we get the effective path difference as delta is equal to 2 mu t cos r plus theta plus lambda by 2. Why the additional path difference? Because there is a phase or path difference occurring at point B. So if we are calculating the condition for maxima, that is constructive interference, we need to be aware that the path difference should always be equal to the integral multiple of lambda. So as we are talking about the first condition, that is for the constructive interference or for maxima, the delta value, that is the path difference value, should be equal to integral value of or integral multiple of lambda. And in this case, integral means n will take a value from 1, 2, 3 and so on, that is integer values. And as we are aware, the effective path difference is nothing but 2 mu t cos r plus theta plus lambda by 2 is equal to nothing but n lambda. Now if we equate this equation, we get a value that is 2 mu t cos r plus theta is equal to, when we try to solve the above equation, we get a value 2n minus 1 lambda by 2 by taking the lambda by 2 on this side. So this is the effective value or condition we can say for the maxima point or for the interference which is occurring constructively or for the rays which are getting interfered constructively. Now, when we talk about the further, that is the condition for minima, or we can say the condition for destructive interference, as we are aware that if we want to talk about the condition for destructive interference, in that case we say that the path difference should be equal to odd multiples of lambda by 2, that is 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. So 2n minus 1 indicates the odd multiple of lambda by 2, and in this case n starts from the value of 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So in this case n can take different values. Now, as we are aware, the path difference which we got, that is effective path difference, was 2 mu t cos r plus theta plus lambda by 2, and this is nothing but equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. Now, if we try to solve this equation, we get an equation that is 2 mu t cos r plus theta is equal to n lambda. So this is the final condition for a point to be minima, or for a point to undergo destructive interference. So this gives me the condition for maxima or the constructive interference, and this gives me the condition for minima or for destructive interference. So this is the way we obtain the maxima minima condition. Now, as we are aware, or as we can see in this diagram, that, or with the mathematical condition, that whenever we obtain a maxima and a minima of a particular order means for a certain value of n, the t value, that is the thickness, should remain constant. So it is clear that whenever we get a maxima and minima of for a particular order, that is for a particular value of n, the t should be constant, and for a wedge shaped film, the t is only going to be constant if we get straight lines parallel to the thin film, or you can say the thin edges of the wedge. So for the wedge shaped film, we get the t value, that is the thickness value, to be constant. For the straight lines, or we can say the straight bands which are lying parallel to the thin edge of the film, that is in the initial part, so we get a straight bands which are parallel to each other as well as parallel to the thin edge of the wedge shaped film. So in this case, that is in the wedge shaped film, we get a interference band which is a straight line parallel to the thin edges of the wedge shaped film, and as we are aware that we are going to get an alternate sequence of bright and dark bands which will be nothing but called as the interference obtained due to the wedge shaped film. Now, as we proceed with the further part, that as we are aware that whenever we talked about the wedge shaped film, the thickness at this point, that is O, the thickness of the film will be 0. That is at point O, that is at the thin edge part of the wedge shaped film, the thickness will be 0, that is the t value will be 0. So if thickness is 0, as we are aware, the total path difference is 2 mu t cos r plus theta plus lambda by 2. So if we say that for the thin edge, that is for this point O, we are saying that the t value is 0, that is thickness value is 0. So using the value of effective path difference, so if t value becomes 0, this first term is going to get vanished, and I'm going to just get a path difference of lambda by 2. So for thin edges, that is for point O, we consider that the thickness is 0 for the point O, because initially the film is going to be very thin, and as we proceed in the further direction, the thickness goes on increasing. So at t equal to 0, that is at point O, t is equal to 0, so we get the path difference as only lambda by 2, because the first term gets vanished because the term becomes 0, as we are getting the path difference to be lambda by 2, as we are aware that for maxima we want integral multiple of lambda, and for minima we want multiples of lambda by 2. So for thin edge, that is at the starting point, as I'm getting the path difference to be lambda by 2, So this is the condition being satisfied for the dark point or minima. So at the thin edge, that is at the point O, we get the path difference to be lambda by 2, and hence we can call that point to be a dark band or a dark point, or it is also called as zero order band, and which is nothing but a dark band. So this is the reason why at the thin edge we get the dark band, because we are getting the path difference of lambda by 2. And as we get the path difference of lambda by 2, this is the condition for minima. Now, if we obviously proceed beyond the edge, because this O was indicating edge, and at edge we are getting the path difference to be lambda by 2. And as we get the path difference to be lambda by 2, we are getting it has a dark band. So at the edge we can say that we are getting a dark band. But as we proceed beyond the edge, that is, if I start moving from the point O in the forward direction, that is beyond the edge, the thickness value will go on increasing. And as the thickness goes on increasing, in the further part, that is, suppose for thickness T, I get a path difference of lambda. That means at edge, I'm getting path difference as lambda by 2, so it is a dark band. But beyond the edge, for a certain thickness T, suppose I get the path difference to be lambda. So if I get a path difference to be a multiple of lambda, it is a condition for maxima. So at a certain thickness T beyond the edge, I'm getting a maxima, that is a bright band. Now if we again proceed further, as the thickness goes on increasing, suppose if I get another value, that is for beyond this T thickness, I got a path difference to be 3 lambda by 2. As we can see that this is a multiple, or we can say that it is an odd multiple of lambda by 2. An odd multiple of lambda by 2 is nothing but the condition for minima, that is dark band. So at path difference 3 lambda by 2, we are going to get the first dark band. As we already got the zero order dark band at the edge, and as we go on proceeding further, and in the film, that is, as the thickness goes on increasing, we are going to get alternate bright and dark bands. So we obtain, using this wedge shape film, we are going to get alternate bright and dark bands which are equally spaced and they are of equal in width. So whenever we look at the interference bands which are obtained due to the wedge shape film, at the edge we get a dark band, and as we proceed further we keep on getting a range of alternate bright and dark bands which are equally spaced with each other and of equal width. Now, there are many conditions or cases which we consider in this case is that, suppose if I consider normal incidence. When I say normal incidence, suppose this is the film, and if I say normal, that means whenever a normal incidence occur, there is no refraction, because we have to keep in mind refraction occurs only for oblique incidence. So for normal refraction or normal incidence, there will be no refraction. And if there is no refraction, the angle of refraction will be 0. And second thing, we have considered the film to be air film. That is a medium to be air film. So the refractive index is going to be 1. So we have taken two particular values. That is, first of all, for normal incidence, no refraction occurs, so R will be 0. And as we have considered air medium, the refractive index will be 1. So if that is the case, we can write the path difference as we are aware, the path difference is 2 mu t cos R plus theta plus lambda by 2 initially. But using these two conditions, that is R is equal to 0 and mu is 1, we can get the path difference as 2t cos theta plus lambda by 2. So this is the path difference for the case 1, that is for normal incidence and the air medium. And if we want to proceed with the constructive and destructive in this case, so for this case, the path difference for the constructive will be equal to 2 cos theta plus lambda by 2 equal to n lambda. This will be for maxima point. And if we write path difference to be 2 cos theta plus lambda by 2 equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2, that is a condition for minima. So for this case 1, that is normal incidence, we have obtained the constructive, that is a minima point condition, and the maxima point condition. Now we have considered case 2, that is, if we consider the angle of wedge, that is the angle made by the two surface OX and OX dash, if that angle is very small, that is this theta, the angle between OX and OX dash, if this angle is very small, and we are saying very small means this theta is almost approaching to 0. So if this theta approaches to 0, as we have cos term and the path difference, so if theta is approaching to 0, cos 0 is approaching to the value of 1. So if that is the case, our path difference is going to become as 2t. And when we look at the value of 2t, that is, as theta is approaching 0, cos 0 is 1. So we are going to get only the path difference as 2t. And if we proceed with the further part, we are going to get this 2t plus lambda by 2 has the effective path difference, because we have already considered the case of normal incidence r equal to 0, and we have already considered the air medium, so mu is 1. So we are only getting the path difference to be 2t plus lambda by 2. Now in this case, if I want constructive interference, so it will be equal to 2t plus lambda by 2 will be equal to, for constructive interference, it will be equal to n lambda. Now if it is equal to n lambda, we are going to get path difference delta is equal to 2t, and if I calculate this value, we are going to get 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. So we can say that ultimately that we are getting 2t is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. This is the condition for the case 2 and for constructive interference, that is for maxima point. Now if we want to obtain for the case 2, if we want to get the destructive interference, that is for minima point, in that case again satisfying the same condition, but in this case the path difference will be equal to 2t plus lambda by 2, already using the condition theta tending to 0, r0 mu 1. And if we want to write the condition for destructive interference, the path difference should be equal to odd multiple of lambda by 2. This is for destructive interference. So we need to equate both of them. That is the path difference obtained due to the conditions, that is case 1 and case 2, equal to the condition for minima, that is 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. If we do the calculation for this case, we get the term as 2t is equal to n lambda. So we get this condition for destructive interference for the above two cases. So for the case 1 and case 2, we have applied both the cases together and we got the path difference as 2t plus lambda by 2. Then we used this path difference to calculate what will be the condition for constructive interference and destructive interference, and this is the condition which we are getting for constructive, and this is the condition which we are getting for the destructive. Now if we look at the values in this case, as we are aware, for constructive the n value starts from 1, 2, 3 because it is an integer multiple, but for destructive n value starts from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So if we calculate it very properly, we are going to get, that is for maxima point, we got 2t is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2, and if I write it as t is equal to, that is thickness of the film is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 4. As we are aware that for maxima n starts from 1, 2, 3 and so on. So we can put the value of n in this term. We can get first value has 2 minus 1. I'm going to get lambda by 4. If I use n is equal to 2, in this case we are going to get 4 minus 1, that is 3 lambda by 4, and so on. We are going to get 5 lambda by 4, 7 lambda by 4. This is the thickness value in terms of wavelength. And if we do the same calculation for minima, as we got the condition for minima as 2t is equal to n lambda, but in this case we are aware that the n value starts from 0. So we can start with the value from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So first of all, from this equation I'm going to get t is equal to n lambda by 2. So this is the value of thickness of the films or the bands, thickness of the bands, and this thickness is going to have the value n lambda by 2. Now this n value starts from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So putting this value, I will get the first value of t has 0 because n is 0, so t value is going to be 0. If n takes value 1, I'm going to get lambda by 2. N takes value 2, I'm going to get the value as lambda, or we can write it as 2 lambda by 2. Next we can get 3 lambda by 2. So this is the thickness value in terms of wavelength for the minima condition. So this is the two different values of thickness for bright bands, that is for constructive interference, and this is the condition for thickness for destructive interference. So if we look at the criteria, that is, as we can see that the first thickness which we obtain for the bright band is lambda by 4. Second bright band is of 3 lambda by 4. So if we consider the bright fringes will have the thickness interval of lambda by 2, because if I subtract this value by this value, that is 3 lambda by 4 minus lambda by 4, we are going to get the value as lambda by 2. Again the spacing, that is thickness interval, will be of lambda by 2. In this case also we are going to have the interval of lambda by 2. This is, we can say that every bright bands due to the wedge shaped film will have thickness interval of lambda by 2. But if I look at thickness interval for minima, in that case again I'm getting lambda by 2 minus 0, again lambda by 2. This value minus this will again give me lambda by 2. So even if we talk about the dark fringes, that is the dark bands, will appear at the thickness interval of lambda by 2. So whether I talk about the bright fringes due to constructive interference, or whether we talk about dark fringes due to destructive interference, in both the cases I'm getting the thickness interval to be lambda by 2. That is why we can say that the interference pattern due to wedge shaped film, that is alternate bright and dark bands, will be equally spaced and will have equal thickness, because the interval value is same for whether it is a bright band or a dark band. So when we proceed with the further part, this is the conditions which we are getting for the bright fringes and the dark fringes, and from this above conditions we have concluded that the bright fringes or whether the dark fringes, they have equal thickness interval, that is of lambda by 2 each. Now further we want to calculate, suppose, what is the spacing between two consecutive bright band, or what is the spacing between two consecutive dark bands. Now if we want to calculate what is the spacing between two consecutive bright band or two consecutive dark band, in that case we need to do some mathematical calculation for getting the spacing between the two consecutive bright band. Right now we are doing the calculation for spacing between two consecutive bright band. Similarly we can apply it for two consecutive dark bands. Now for example, suppose in the initial case, if I talk about the conditions for the maximum band, like nth maximum band and n plus 1th, as we are talking about consecutive bright bands. So I'm considering one bright band, that is nth one, and the next bride band has n plus 1th bride band. So we have considered two bride band, that is n and n plus 1th. And when we talk about the nth bride band, that is nth maxima for the wedge shape film, we can write the path difference has, or the condition for maxima, as we are aware, it is 2 mu t cos r plus theta plus the additional path difference, that is lambda by 2, is equal to n lambda. And if we do the calculation, we get it as 2 mu t cos r plus theta, which is equal to nothing but 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. So this is the condition for the maxima or the bride bands. Now, if I make use of the case that is for normal incidence and air film. So as we are aware that for normal incidence there is no refraction, so angle of refraction is 0, and for air film the refractive index is taken to be 1, that is mu will be taken to be 1. So if I put these two values in the above equation, we are going to get 2t cos theta is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. This is, we are talking about the bride band. So we are talking about the nth bride band. So we have written the condition as 2t cos theta is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. Now as we can see that this nth bride band at position Pn is at distance xn from the edge. This is the edge of the film. So the nth bride band is at a distance xn from the edge, and I have considered the next consecutive bride band, that is n plus 1, which is at distance xn plus 1 from the edge. As we have considered two consecutive bride band, that is nth bride band and the n plus 1. So we have considered two distance, that is xn, distance of nth bride band from the edge, and xn plus 1, distance of n plus 1th bride band from the edge. So initially when we talk about the nth bride band, this nth bride band is at a distance of xn from the edge of the wedge. So this indicates the edge of the wedge, and this is the position of nth bride band, and its distance from the edge is nothing but taken to be xn. So as this t represents the thickness of the film or the wedge at this nth bride band, so if I calculate tan theta from this particular part, so this, if I consider this triangle, tan theta is nothing but opposite upon adjacent. Opposite is the thickness of the film, that is t, divided by adjacent is nothing but xn. So from this we can write the thickness t will be equal to xn into tan theta. So this is the value of t which we are getting for the nth bride band, which is at xn distance from the edge. Now as we have already written this condition, that is 2t cos theta is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. Now instead of t we put this value, we get the value as 2xn tan theta into cos theta is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. As we are aware that tan theta is nothing but sine by cos, and we already have cos over here, so the cos of tan theta will get cancelled with this cos. We are getting 2xn sine theta is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. So we can consider this as equation 1, that is for the nth bride band at a distance xn from the edge of the wedge. Now suppose if we consider the n plus 1th bride band, that is we are talking about n plus 1th bride band, and which is supposed to be at distance xn plus 1, and this xn plus 1 distance is being measured from edge of the wedge, that is this is the edge of the wedge. So we have considered now this new location, that is Pn plus 1. Now when we talk about this Pn plus location for the bride band, that is n plus 1th bride band. So in this case, we are going to have distance xn plus 1. So if we do the calculation again in the similar manner, so as we got t has xn tan theta, in a similar manner we can get t as xn plus 1 tan theta, and if we do the calculation again, we can get ultimately the equation as 2xn plus 1 sine theta. Instead of n in this equation, we are going to write just n plus 1. So instead of n, I am writing n plus 1 minus 1 times the lambda by 2 term. And if I use this equation, that is 2xn plus 1 into this, we ultimately get an equation 2xn plus 1 sine theta is equal to, on the right hand side we get an equation 2n plus 1 in a bracket lambda by 2. So this is the condition which we obtain for the n plus 1th bride band at a distance of xn plus 1 from the edge of the wedge. So we have written two equations over here, one for the nth bride band and this is for the next, that is n plus 1th bride band. Now if you want to calculate the spacing between these two consecutive bride band, that is nth and n plus 1, we need to subtract these two terms, that is we need to subtract equation 2 minus equation 1, that is subtraction of LHS minus LHS, RHS minus RHS, and as we do the subtraction we get a term pending, that is 2xn plus 1 minus, we are subtracting it with this, so I'm going to get xn in the bracket, 2 is common, into sine theta on the LHS side, and as in the RHS I have 2n plus 1 lambda by 2 over here, and over there 2n minus 1 lambda by 2, so I get a term that is just lambda if I subtract the RHS with each other. So to obtain the spacing between the two nth band and the n plus 1th bride band, we're just subtracting the spacing between them, and if I subtract the terms we get the spacing between the two bride bands, that is consecutive bride band. Now if you look at this equation, this xn plus 1 and xn indicates the spacing between the two bride bands, that is consecutive. As we can see that this is xn, this is for the xn plus 1 distance. So if I want to calculate the spacing between the nth bride band and the n plus 1, so we need to calculate only this much part, that is this part. So for calculating this part we need to subtract xn plus 1 minus xn. So this gives me, that is xn plus 1 minus xn gives me the spacing between two consecutive bride band, which is written as beta into sine theta is equal to lambda. So over here we can write that we are getting beta is nothing but xn plus 1 minus xn, that is the distance between the n plus 1 and the n, and if I take the spacing between the two consecutive bride bands, that is nth and n plus 1, we get the gap between the two consecutive band, and this gap between two consecutive band is nothing but called as fringe width. So this is the way we calculate the spacing between the two consecutive bride bands or dark bands, and this spacing is nothing but called as fringe width, and fringe width is nothing but denoted by beta. So we got the fringe width value for two consecutive bride bands. So as we can see that beta is nothing but equal to this, and as we proceed with the further equation we get 2 beta times the sine theta is equal to lambda, and if I write beta on one side I will get lambda upon 2 sine theta. As we are aware, theta is nothing but the angle between the two surfaces which is forming the wedge shape. If this theta is very small and if it is measured in radians, then in that case your sine theta becomes approximately equal to theta. So please remember, whenever we write any trigonometric term, that is sine theta, cos theta, approximately to be equal to theta, we can write that only when theta value is very small and it is measured in radian. So we are going to get beta value as lambda upon 2, as instead of sine theta we can write it as approximately equal to theta. So I write it as beta is equal to lambda by 2 theta. So if we are aware of these terms, that is lambda value and the theta value, what is lambda indicating? The wavelength of the monochromatic light which is being used for the experiment. Theta indicates the angle between the two surfaces of the wedge-shaped film. And if we are aware of these two terms, we can calculate the fringe width, that is the spacing between two consecutive bright bands. In a similar manner, we can calculate the spacing between two consecutive dark bands. Secondly, if you remember, when we were doing this calculation, we said we have considered an air film. That is why we have taken the term mu as 1. What if I tell you that instead of air film, I have considered any other medium? So if we consider any other medium, in that case, that is, we have done all this calculation for the air film. And if I have done all this calculation for air film, mu is taken to be 1. But if I'm doing calculation except for the air film for any other medium, so if I consider for any other medium and except air, any other medium will have a certain refractive index, and I'm writing the refractive index as mu. So in that case, the fringe width will become as lambda 2 mu theta. So we have to remember two formulas in this case, 1 and 2. This formula is applicable when we have considered air film. Why? Because if we consider air film, mu is taken to be 1. So the whole calculation was done into consideration that we had considered air film and the refractive index of air film is 1. But when we come to the medium, in the terms of medium, your refractive index come into picture, that is mu. So we're getting an additional term of mu in this case. So we got two values of fringe width, one for the air film and the second one for any other mediums. So if we are aware on the terms which are present on the RHS, we can calculate the fringe width, that is the spacing between two consecutive bright band or two consecutive dark band. So this is what you talk about, the interference pattern, that is alternate bright and dark bands of equal thickness and of equal width of equal spacing being obtained using the thin film which of non-varying thickness, or when you say different thickness or non-uniform thickness. This thin film or interference obtained due to non-uniform thickness film is nothing but the interference due to the wedge-shaped film. So this is what you all talk about, the mathematical calculations, the theoretical understanding behind the interference occurring due to the wedge-shaped film. That's all for this video. Thank you so much.